Hi, everyone. Welcome to the reporting webinar for Camgen. So today we'll go over the basic of what the reporting add-on does in Camgen. So that would be first to focus on the main features of this add-on, and then work on how to customize a report using the report editor. We'll go a little bit inside the code and how to write code in a report editor, and also work also on the design. So it will be more technical toward the end, but because it's recorded, feel free to watch it again if it gets a little bit more complicated. So now let's start with the first thing we want to look at in the report module. So it's the fact that when you have the reporting add-on in Camgen, you right away unlocking up to 150 predefined reports in the report center. So by default, if you start with the core version of Camgen, the core it's basically the foundation of the Camgen software, the basic license, you will always have 13 reports that will be, for example, a door list, a cabinet list, a material summary as well. But having the reporting add-on, you will have much more options of report to pick from. You will have, for example, countertop list, molding report, more detailed cut list as well. And you will also notice that a lot of the report have different versions of the same template, but mostly being displayed differently. So if I jump in my Camgen software, I'm inside a job, and to access my report center, I'll click on the report tab and click on the report center. So this Camgen license does have the reporting add-on. And now when I will go in my report center, I will be welcome with the list of groups, where it's a drop-down list where you can pick what group you want to display and what report you want to print as well. So because it's fairly new and fresh install, I don't have anything assigned in specific groups. So what I can do is to click on the setup report button. And from here, I will actually see the full list of available reports in my system. So as you can see, there's a lot of different type of reports for different things. For example, here I have a face frame cut list. I have a drawer cut list. I will find also, for example, a banding cut list. So those are all added automatically with the reporting add-on. And you can, of course, sort the titles if you want to easily find the report you're looking for. And if you want to add it to a group, it's simply done by selecting the report in the list and checking the group in which you want it to appear. So for example, if my door list I want it to be in my door group, I just check doors, but you can also assign it in multiple group if you want. So you can say I want to sit in the door group and the job summary. And when you hit return, you go back to the default view of the report center. And if I go now in door, I will see that now I have a door list selected here. So it's really a way for you to customize the report you want to display in specific groups as well. Also, once we want to add a report to a new group, we simply click on the add button, and that will allow you to create our own custom group. So for example, I'm going to call it test. If I put an underscore, it will jump at the very beginning of the list. And I can now say this door list, I want it to be in my test group. So now if I exit my report center, go back inside the report center, my first group that will be loaded is the underscore test, and my door list is now part of this group. So that will be now a custom group with the report I want to display first in this specific group here. So that's how you can have access to all the report available in the reporting add-on. Also, what you can see and do is to select if you want to use a system report or user report. So there's a little legend at the left that will show you an icon that will actually specify which report is a system report and which report is a user report. The system report will be common to every Camgen users. Basically, they are stock report that will be automatically added to your database when you first install the software. They cannot be deleted. or they cannot be modified. So that's kind of a easy way if you wanted to get a clean report to modify. You can always go back to a system report, copy it, and start modifying and make it your own user report, but keeping the original all the time in the database. So that's what is the difference between a system report and a user report as well. Next thing we want to look is when you are in the report center, another very useful feature that you can use with reporting add-on is the file export utility. So the file export utility is a tool that will allow you to export a report in a specific file format. So when you select a report in one of the group and you look at the toolbar, you have a export report button. So that will allow you to select the file format first that you want to export. There's a lot of good and useful file format: PDF, Excel, Word, CSV, or XML. Those are very common file format being imported in third-party software. So you can pick any of those file format. And then you can also change the option for each file format. So each of those file formats will have their own options. So if I select a CSV format, I'll have different export settings than Excel option, for example, here. So once you select your file format, you can even print all the pages or just the one that's part of the list. Very typical, same as printing a document. And then you can generate the export file, select the location on your computer, save it, and then we can quickly look at it in the desktop, export, and that'll be right here, the Excel export of my report. So that will likely use the same design as the original report. So if it's just a simple list, it's better maybe to export a text file because you're not going to have all the unnecessary formatting. But if you need indeed to have specific field to land in specific columns, for example, you can use basically your design in the report center to make sure that it lands wherever you want it here. So that's how you can export a report. And often we have this being used to process files, for example, ordering doors, importing orders in an ERP system, for example, are a very common thing that we see users doing with the export utility. So when you want to export a file, always remember that the option is tied to the format. And also specific format will have this specific option. So CSV again will have different set of options, and the file will look completely different than the one for a different format. So if I go back my desktop and get now my CSV file, so this is my door list now in a CSV format. And of course, you can select the delimiter if you want a specific character to specify when it's a text. You can do that as well too here. Okay, so that's the feature that's very much used when you want to export this to third-party software. It's to be able to export your files with the export utility. Next thing, less known feature, it's the third-party output. So basically, you can also use the report center if you want to output files to third-party software, but we have also a utility to already use a specific file format. One is, for example, the cut file format, cut CUT. It's used often for BIMSA. Some BIMSA will have an option to import a cut file. So the report center can do that for you if you wanted to, when you have the option, the reporting option. So it would be found. You have to, let's say we go back to our main screen in the project, go back to my report tab. I don't have to enter in the report center. I'm in the report tab, and this time I will click on the utilities tab, and I'll click on output data file. And from here, I can select the format I want to output. As I said, we already have predefined output format. Cut, I know a lot of BIMSO can import cut file, so you can export a cut file. You can export a P&L file. It's more like a manufacturing file that will have all basically parts and information about the parts, edge banding, materials, quantities, sizes, for example. Or you can create your own custom output format. So it's sometimes it's an easier way of creating an output template instead of having to create a report and then export it manually in the report center. So you can go directly in the output data file utility, switch to the custom tab, and then when you click setup, it's very easy. It's basically you select the field that you want to add to your files, the file name you want to use, the extension, and then you can use basically the text qualifier, the unit, the precision, and so on and so on. So that's very easy. And we use it often if you want to quickly generate a CSV file of your entire part list, for example. You would be able to use this output data file utility here. And also when you set up a format, you can save it so you can reuse it over time, not having to reconfigure it every single time you go back to this utility as well. So that's the main feature of the report center. Another one that's also unlocked, and that's maybe something you use very often, but I'll just make sure that we talk about it quickly, is simply the fact that with the reporting, you also have access to filters in the report center. So filters will allow you to actually kind of pick and choose what you want to be added to your report. So by default, the entire project, including all the rooms and cabinets will be selected. But you can, if you say you want just a report for a specific cabinet, you can just go in the report center, hit filter, and select the cabinets you want. And the report will only generate the data for only the cabinet selected here. So very useful if you wanted just to generate a report for a specific room or specific cabinets as well. And you can even go by type of top. So you can say, I want only specific countertops or specific accessories, for example, too. So this is the filter in the report center of Cabvision. Now, the other feature we will explore today, and we'll spend more time here, is the report editor. So the report editor is really where you get to create your own report format. So you will first select the source of data you want to use, the data source, and then you will be able to select the actual design of the report. So customize the design of the report. So two things, you select what you want to display, and then you select how you want to display it in the report editor. So this is available in the report center when you click on the setup report button. And this is the toolbar you have at the very top, the edit toolbar, where you have tools to create new report, design report, edit the report properties, copy or delete a report. So this is all how you customize the report. As I explained earlier, system report cannot be deleted or modified. So if you have a system report selected, the delete will be grayed out. You can still edit the properties. That's really the only thing you can customize, and the properties will be more the name, the description of the report. That's really all you can modify. And you can click on the design report button for a system report, but it's not going to modify the original report. It's going to ask you to copy it, and it will copy it for you, and then edit the copy of the system report. So this prompt will tell me that this is a system report, so Cabvision is going to create a report and allow me to modify the copy of this report. So if I click OK now, I can rename it, and I'll put test dash beginning. And now I'm in the report editor where I can create my own version of this system report. So I'm not modifying the original, I'm just editing a copy of it. So in the report editor, and this is the report designer, this is more about the way the report will look like. So basically how you want to display a table, the title, the font, if you want to insert text, barcode, images, for example. So it's really like how you make it look. It's not so much about what the report is using as a source of data. This is in a separate place that we specified this. So now if we close this, so as you can see at the very bottom of my list, my new report, which is a copy of the system report, is added to the list here. So for this example, I don't need it. I will just delete it for now. And we'll go more step by step, explain the best practices to create your own report. So there's two ways to create a report. Actually, there's more than two ways, but two main ways. Start from scratch with a new report, or use an existing report. As you may know, it's always easier to use something that already exists instead of starting from scratch. But if you want to, you can start with a blank report. So you can click new and you can fill all the information, the name, the description, the properties. You can also select what data you want to use. Right now, there's absolutely nothing that Caption will display on this report. So you will have to tell Caption what you want this report to display. And that's basically defining the data you want to use for this report. And the data is really going into the job file or the database to show the information you're asking Caption to display. A report is really like a way to view what's inside your job file, and your job file is indeed a database file. So basically, Caption will sort and organize all the information in different tables. Those tables are almost like a box. A box will be where it puts all the cabinet information, another box where it put all the drawers information, another box where it put all the countertop information. And in order to know how those boxes are connecting to each other, we will have a relationship. So for example, the box with all the drawers, Caption will label each drawer with a cabinet ID to know that this drawer belongs to a specific cabinet. So if you will know that this drawer that you have with a 24-inch drawer front belong to the cabinet number 1. So you will have this ID basically as a flag to know that if you want to display all the drawers from cabinet number 1, it will look in the drawer box or the drawer table and show you all the one where the value for cabinet ID is equal to 1. So that's really how it works. This is a very simplified way of explaining it, but this is really how it works in the system when you add tables to your report. So when you have a new report, because it's blank, there's nothing to display. So even if you go in the report designer, you'll see that it's completely blank. Blank page, no data, nothing. So I don't really recommend to start from scratch. Even experienced user will rarely start from scratch unless there's a good reason for of doing it. So instead, there's a better way to create a new report is to use an existing system report. So if you already know that you want your report to be showing some door information, maybe it's smart to start with a door list or a door cut list if it's more like a cut list for doors that you want customized. If it's not really like any specific, it's maybe a little bit of everything. It's a good report to start using. It's called the report template. So it's the system report, but it's kind of like one where we already created different data source for you to be used in a report. So if I copy the one called report template, copy this, I'll call it my report template. If I go in the report property, and report property is really to customize the data source, you'll see that here I have already some tables available. And the tables is the information that this report is capable of displaying. So right now there's a table called job part, job material, and job info. So the very first one is basically a list of parts for a project for the job, the list of material used, and the information about the job. So those are kind of like here for you if that's something that you want to use, you already have those. And if you were to go by closing this and click to design this report, you will see that in this report, I already have some text, but I can delete the existing text because this is just an information about some parameters. When you select the report container on the left on the project, you can now add an element. And what you want to add is a table. And the table is to pick one of the table existing in the report properties. So as you remember, we had job info, material, and parts. So if I select, for example, material, click OK, then a wizard will open to show me the available field that could be displayed from the job material table. And in this case, my report is set up to display, for example, a description and a name, for example. And it will just list the name of the different material. If I save and close my report designer, now this is saved in the design. So this report should show me just a list of material being used in my project. So to test it, you can stay in the report center. You simply go under view. You can change the view. And right now you are in the setup mode view. So basically you're customizing report, but you can switch quickly to the view mode. And that will show you the currently selected report on the screen. So this is what my template is doing right now. It's just displaying all the materials I have used in this project. And then you can switch back to your setup mode if you want to keep modifying this report in Camvision. So that's kind of like how we modify reports. So now we'll go more explain about the data. So how you get to pick and choose what data you want, because right now it's already there and it's displayed basically based on the table that's already in the properties and the report properties of the report. So now how do you add and modify those tables, which is a very critical thing, because if you want to display the right information, it has to already list the things you want to see on your report in the exact same order with the exact same field you want to see. Later in the design, you cannot say, for example, add the dimension if the dimension is not part of the table that you're creating here. So to customize this, we want to maybe learn a few things that you might know, but is very essential when you start manipulating a report, is to go through what is the engine and the language being used in a report. So the report is using what we call SQL, SQL. So basically, it's a way to actually talk to a database. So when you talk to the database, you can even ask to show you some information, or you can ask to modify the information. In the report editor in Camvision, 99% of the time you will just ask to display information. This is not a place built to modify the database, for example, add new materials, modify price. This is not what this report editor is. It's really like to display the information of the existing database. So when you want to ask for something, you basically have to use what we call a select statement. And the select statement is to call a specific table. So you select from a place. So you say, from the cabinet table, give me the specific field and the information you find for those fields. So what this statement will do, it will basically call the cabinet table and display all the cabinet found in this table, but only display the names, the weights, the height, and the depth. That's what it does. So that's where you might say, whoa, I don't want to write this myself. And you don't have to if you don't want to. Some people love it. Some people hate it. Most people hate it. They don't want to write it themselves. So I have an easier way for you to do this exact same thing, but at least step by step without having to be a software developer. So how you do that? You go in Camvision, and I would still stay in my template report. I'll just say I want to create my own table. So what you do, you are in the tables group, and you will click on the second icon in the toolbar, and it's to select fields to include in the report. So basically, it's a way for you to call a new set of data to be displayed on your report. The nice thing about this is instead of manually having to write your code, you have a wizard that will actually walk you step by step to help you write this code for you. So if we pick our example again, we want to select the cabinet name, width, height, and depth from the cabinets table, where basically Camvision is storing all the cabinets for this job. So what you will do, you'll first you are in the select tab. So this is actually what we want. We want to select the information, and you find the table you want to display. And we want to display the cabinet table. So we want to display what is in the cabinet table. If you wanted to display a door list, of course, you will find the one called door, and you will actually have door information. But in our case, we want cabinets. So once you find your cabinets table, you click on the little plus, and now it's to allow you to pick the field from the cabinet table you want to display. So I want to display the name, cabinet name. I want to display the width. Width in Cablevision, you have two fields, width and width string, and same for the height. The width is the actual width that's recorded in the database as a numerical value, the exact and accurate width. The width string is more the one that's being displayed based on your preferences. So if you want it to be displayed, for example, 24.5, so you can select width, or if you wanted to round it to the 16, because that's how your software is set up, it's the string. But this one will be the exact width. Right now, I would just simplify and say I want the exact width, not really like the ones from my preferences. So I'll also include the height and the depth. And that's all I will do for now. I just say I want to select cabinet name, width, height, and depth, and that's what I want to show on my report. And I hit OK. As soon as I hit OK, a new table is added to my table group. It's called cabinet. It will always take by default the name of the table where the data is from. And Cablevision will switch to the preview tab to show you an actual preview for your current job of what it found based on the select you created. So basically right now it's doing exactly what I want. It's showing me all the cabinet in my project, and I can see this is all the cabinet with the width, the height, and the depth. And if you want to see the code or modify it, you can switch tab and go to SQL. And here you see that Cablevision wrote for you the code to actually get this result here. And that's back to what I was explaining. Cablevision did create a select comment or a select statement where it asks cabinet name, width, height, and depth from cabinets. So because this is programming language, there's a way to write things. So in the case of this one, Cablevision also added at the beginning of every field the name of the table. This is a very good way, so I encourage people to do it. Experienced user will know that you don't necessarily have to repeat cabinet, because the software, the SQL engine itself, will kind of go, it knows that if it's from cabinet, it will only look for this in the cabinet table. So that's why my example is shorter, but it will do the exact same thing as the one we see on the screen. This one is more like detail. And also when you start creating more complicated statement with multiple tables, you can lose track. So it's always good to do with the actual table in front of the field so you know where it's coming from. So here I have my cabinet list. And again, I can close my properties and go back to my design. I can say I want to delete the job material table that is being displayed currently, and click again on my button to add a table. And now I can see that my cabinet is part of the list. So I can select cabinet and I can select what I want to add. I want my example to add names, width, height, and depth. When you do that, and it's all automated again in a wizard, Cablevision and will use basically the report designer to format it, and it's kind of a very generic formatting. You will always put the name of the column, and by default, it will try to count everything for you. So at the end, you will have a total of everything. If I save this, close, and show you the result, go back to view mode. Take a second. Now you can see, just make it bigger with the magnifier. Cabinet name, width, height, and depth as a title, and now I have my list formatted. And then, as I said, it will count everything, even if here it doesn't make sense. I guess if you wanted the total width of cabinet, why not? Very useful. But it's something that you can edit in the formatting, because the formatting at least can use what you currently have in the data source and make some basic math for you. So if you wanted a total, a sum, a count, you can do it also here, or you can do it in the data source as well. But that's basically what my template did here. So this is using the select command in Cabvision in the report designer. So that's the foundation. Every time you need to find information for a report, you have to write a select statement, or you have to use an existing one and modify it to find and select what you want. So now the select is the beginning of how to write command in the report center. So after select, another very useful command is the where command. The where command allows you to filter the data that you're getting from the actual select statement. Let's say, for example, my example before had many cabinets, and we can look at it on the list. So this is what I have here. Let's say for my department, it's for some reason, I'll say, I don't know, they only want to see on this report or care on this report, they only want to see the cabinet that's over 24-inch wide. So instead of having all this and having them to ignore manually, I can actually help them and say, you know what, in my report, I will already find for you only the cabinets over 24 inches. So to do that, that's why you will use a where, and the where is where you can add one or multiple condition. And the where will allow you to find a field, and for this field, write the condition that this should meet in order to be part of the list. So in this case, the report will only keep the cabinet in the list if it's over 24-inch wide. That's really what the where means here. So when I explain it, it's very easy to understand, but now you have to know how to write it. And the good thing is, again, if we go back to our setup mode and the properties, you'll see that the wizard can help you also do that. The only limitation of the wizard, and that's not something I think you can do if you already created through the wizard, you cannot re-edit inside the wizard. You have to create a new table. So sometimes it's good to know everything you want before creating it if you want to use the wizard, or else you have to go back and forth, back and forth. But here I will just say I want to delete this object and create a new one. And I'll do the same thing I did before. Cabinets. I think I had names. I had width, height, and depth. So this is the same select I did before. But in this case, I want to also say I want make sure that this is only showing the one that's over 24 inch. And you remember I said it's a where command. And in the wizard, you have a where tab. Click on that. And that's where you can actually tell the software, you know what, how about you write it for me? So you can say, you find the field width. The good thing in this wizard, and it's a very powerful tool, it's also showing you already sample data, so you can kind of see what's going to happen. So you can actually write it, and I'll try to put, for example, over 24. So actually, it's not for the name, sorry, wrong line. So it's for the, I put the name twice. It's for the width. So for the width, I want to be over 24. And for some reason, it's changing to name, but I think if I click OK, it should update. Actually, it didn't. Okay. Let's do it one more time. Cabinet. That was name, width, height, and depth. Where? And let's see if I get it this time. No. Let's see if I pick another one. Yeah, maybe this one is a little bit glitchy, but I can show it to you manually, which should work in the wizard. I haven't done it in a long time, but if we just create the query again, name, width, height, and depth, click OK. So I will just go manually and add where. And in my where, I will actually copy the field that's returning the width. So I'll just copy this whole section and I'll just put greater than 24. And also that's allow me to show you when you manually edit the code. So you will have at some point, if it's a complex report, to manually adjust it. How to test it quickly. And that's a very simple thing. When you type code here, if you select a different table and go back to the table you modified, it should actually allow you to get back in with no error. If you see an error window, it means that this is not a valid command, and I can actually trigger one error. So I'll remove the greater than, click outside this table and go back, and now I'll trigger an error. And the good thing is it's also kind of telling you where to look for errors, and here it will say that's an incorrect syntax near 24. So at least when I go back, I look at 24, I'm like, oh, I forgot to put greater than, and I can click again, and now no error. And if I switch to the data preview, now this is now filtered to only keep cabinet over 24, the smallest one being 24.5, but everything else is over 24. So it does what I'm asking. And when you do that, you don't have to update the design of the report because the design stays the same. You just change the data source. So if I go back to the view mode, you'll see that now I have an updated version without basically the data I had to modify again. So this is an updated version of my report here. So this is with the where. And of course, you can put multiple where commands or where widths. If you want to add multiple conditions, you can put and or and or in between. So you can say it's greater than something and less than something. So you can do that. Or you can do it or if you want one or the other. So it doesn't have to be both are equal to are true. One could be true and it will still pass and be showed on the report. Very similar to what you do in standard software programming. So this is the where. The other one that's often used, it's the order by. So the order by is a sorting command. So when you display information in a report, it's always important to display it in the order you want. Take a very simple example. You want to print a door list for the guy to check the door size when they get a shipment of doors. Well, you don't want to write random door size all over the place. Maybe it will be help the guy if it's sorted by size, saying look from the greatest to the smallest, for example. Same for cabinet. Maybe you want to sort them by size, for example. So how you do it is at the end of your select command, you can add an order by command. And the order by will allow you to specify the field that you want to use to sort your information and also the type of sorting you want. So there's two options, the descending or the ascending order. And this is basically just by writing DESC, descending, or ASC for ascending at the end of the order by. So an example of it, if I select my report here, go inside my SQL. So I still have my 24-inch, which I can keep, but this time I can add an extra order by, and I'll take the width again, and I'll put order by width. If you put only order by width, that will by default use an ascending sorting. So it's not, you don't have to explicitly say it's ascending, it's the default. But if you want to force it to be descending, you have to put DESC, or you can also specifically say ASC if you want to say it's ascending. But if you don't write it down, it will be ascending. And now if I go back to my data source, you'll see that this is smallest to cabinet here. And if I do the opposite, I put a DESC, click in and out, and you see now it's reverted to the opposite here. Also, as you can see, for example, let's see if I have an example. Yes, so for example, you see you have 39, 36, 36, but those also, it's still random for the height. So you can put more than one field in your order by. So I can also say once you order by width, also order by height. So I can add column height. And I can say this one is DESC, DESC. And now you will also sort by height as well, too. Width and height. So 35, 35, 18, if they are the same height, you will also sort them. So that's how you can control the sorting. And if you have door list and it's not in the right order, you can do that. So you can sort by height. You can sort also by name. I mean, if you put the name, like cabinet name, it will be basically based on the first letter and second letter and so on. So it will be sorted by name as well. So it doesn't have to be always numbers when you do sorting in a query here. So that's the order by that you should know. And also the order by is also available also in the wizard. So when you have it's on the sort, you can do an order by as well. So I can do, for example, a door list. And now on door name, width, height, and I want to sort, and I can say I want to sort by width. So in here, it's a simplified version where you just click on the arrow if you want to have ascending or descending. So you want to do, for example, width first and height, and you can actually move which one should be first. So you can do those, and now when you click OK, you see that Caption wrote your query, select doors, name, width, height from door, and order by width and height. And as I said, if it's ascending, it doesn't have to say ASC. That's why I didn't write it. But if I look at my list, now I have all my doors sorted by width and height here. And again, I can use this as a data source for my report down the road here. So that's the sorting. Next one, and we almost done for those very important comment, it's the group by. So the group by is more when you want to group similar set of data together. For example, you have a list of cabinet, but you don't want to repeat the same cabinet over and over if it's the exact same name and dimensions. For example, if it's you have two corner cabinets, same size, you want, say, put quantity 2 next to it. I don't need to have a report that will repeat the same thing. It's not efficient. So how you do it is by using a group by command. So if I look at it, the group by is added again at the end of your select from. And the group by will simply ask you to add all the fields that you want to use as a criteria that should be identical on each line. So when you do that also, often a group by will also have some kind of way to count or quantify something. So if you're grouping the same cabinet, you probably want to also count how many of those identical one you need. So that's why you'll see that there's often something like a count or sum, for example. This one starts to be a little bit more complex to write. So that's why it's good to use the wizard. And with the wizard, I will make one using a group by. So I'll say I want to add a cabinet list, name, width, height, and depth. But I want also to actually group all the identical cabinet and give me the total of cabinet quantity for each line. So I will click on the group. And when you do a group, you say you want to group the field. And when you say that, you will also tell Cablevision when you group what you want to count as well. So maybe you can say, you know what, I want to group all this. But, and sometimes it's also good to put another extra field, maybe the cabinet ID. So you can use it as a way to count each cabinet. So if I go back here, I can say, I want to group this report, but I want my cabinet ID. I don't need to write it. I just want to use it as a way to count how many of each are identical. So I'll say for the cabinet ID, I'll select a count actually, just to count. Click OK. And now I have my typical select, but for the cabinet ID, I have Cablevision added an extra count command in the select where it knows that it will count the cabinet ID, and also it will name this new field that's being added to my table. And also he wrote that he will group by name, width, height, and depth. So Basically, it means that in order for them to be considered the same, we have to have the same name, same width, same height, and same depth. They are identical, and then you will count them as one group. So if I look at the data, you see that now I have still my cabinet, but now it will tell me that this 90 base corner, I have 2 of them. This upper cabinet, I have 4 of them in my project because those are all identical because we have the same name, size as well. And then the count at the end is what will count them for you. And you can also change the label. Right now it's adding a command as, and I'll say, for example, QTY. I just want to name this field QTY, and now I will just add a field name QTY. And again, this is now a new data source that you can add to your report easily once you create the statement you want here. So that's what the group by does. And the very last one, which is the more complicated to use, is to join table together. So join is when you need information from multiple sources to be displayed on the same table, on the same report. For example, if you have a door list, but you want your door list to also show for each door the name of the cabinet where the door is from, because in the door table, you don't have a cabinet name field. You have to join them with the cabinet to find the name inside the cabinet. So how you do it with the wizard, you will first select both your cabinet and door, and you select the field that you need. So first, let's do the door. I'll say for the door, I need to display the door name, the width, height. And I think that's all we have on our example. Width, height, okay. And I want to also get the door name as well. So to do that, that's where I will want to also tell Cabvision I need to go in the cabinet table, click plus, and in the cabinet table, because it's 2 different places, that's why the software automatically will ask you to join them together. And to join them, you have to go from one table. So you have to go from the table door and the table cabinet. So usually I select both table on left and right. And then you select what field is basically the key to the other information in the other table. In this case, if you look at the door table, you would expect that the door table has a way to know what cabinet it belongs to. And it should have something like called cabinet ID. So if I look in doors and I look for cabinet ID, I do have one. And in cabinet, I should have something also called cabinet ID. And that's what will make the relationship with a specific door to be attached to a specific cabinet. So now I created my relationship, my join, can click OK, and now Cabvision will let me now say, now I know how to join those 2 tables. Now, what do you want to show in cabinet? And in cabinet, I want to show the name. And now you will know that you will display name, width, height, and cabinet name. I click OK. And you'll see that the software wrote a bunch of commands for you. It created a join on the door table using the cabinet ID field with the cabinet ID field from the cabinet table. So basically, it's kind of like making it a common field that should have the same value. If my cabinet ID is 1 on the door and I'm looking for the cabinet number 1, it means this door belongs to this cabinet. Now, if I look at the preview, you will see that each of my door, I also know where my door is coming from as well for the cabinet. And this is a very simple example, but that's really the foundation of joining table together. And now I can easily go back in my design. And also that allow me to show you in the design, you can show multiple tables on the same report. They will just be displayed one after each other. So I can still keep my list of cabinet. Let's say I also wanted a shipping list or a delivery list, and I want to tell them also I want to put a list of doors. So I can go to add a new element, and I'll add a new table, and I'll select my door. I think it's the one called door 2. And I want to select the door name, height, width, and the cabinet name, so I know the cabinet as well. And as you can see, now I have two tables that will be displayed one after each other. So I have a door list and a cabinet list. And maybe I want my cabinet list first, so I can move it up. And I will have my door list. So if I save this and go to my view mode, see now this report has first my cabinet list, which uses its own table with its own set of data. And then the other table where I created my code for my door list is displayed after that. And that's really how you build more complex report with, say you wanted a shipping list with cabinet list, countertop list, door list, accessory list. It's very now a matter of knowing where each of those information are stored. And the easiest way to find out is when you go in the edit and you add a table, you just look at all the tables available here. So you have accessories, cabinets, drawers, doors. So you just pick and choose. If it was an accessory, you probably want to look in accessory, for example. If it's a part, you can look for the part table as well. So that's really the basic of it. It's not all, but in 1 hour, if you can understand all this and be able to get to use those tools, you are very, very far ahead already. And then we can, after that, continue and go in more advanced type of report in the software. So that's really what I wanted to show you today. So I will go back to the chat and see if there are any questions.
Thank you so much, Christopher. So I'd like to invite everyone, if you have any questions, please go ahead and type them in the chat or in the Q&A window now. We don't have any for the moment, Christopher. I guess everyone's going easy on you and Clayton today. Maybe we'll bring back one of the questions that we had in the French webinar that we held this morning. So someone had asked if a user who has the reporting multiplier creates a report that's not a basic system report and wants to share it with another user who doesn't have the multiplier, is that something they're able to do?
Good question. When you create a custom report, the user that wants to use and see the custom report will also have to need to have the reporting module as well. So just making sure that both have reporting and then they can both see the custom report. If you don't have reporting, you will only see some system report, but you will not see the custom reports.
Perfect. Thank you. So we have a great question here. Does CV allow you to sort hangrail lengths for closets?
Yes. So for the hanging rail, if it's for closet, the approach will be to just make sure that in your actual design, you have a part that will represent the hangrail object with a size. And then you will be able to create a report to only focus on hangrail length, for example. A quick trick, and that's also something that we can see in the report we currently created, the one where I have job parts. In the import section, we have a table. Basically, it's a master table that's actually the list of all the parts available in CAMvision. So this will list all the type of part possible in CAMvision. And the great thing about this one is each part has a unique ID. So what you can do is if you create a new part called hangrail and draw it on your project, you will have always the same ID. Every hangrail will be having the same ID, for example, ID 123. So you will basically want to create a report that will show all the parts, but making sure that you, in your where, you say where the ID equal 123. And then you can create a sum, a count if you want to count them, or if you want the sum of the length. So you put a sum on the length field of this part. I can maybe show an example because in this cabinet, I'm pretty much sure we have some. Let's say I take a stretcher. It's not a hanging rail, but here I have some stretchers. So what I can do, I can say I want this to give me the total length of stretchers. So, and for stretcher, what I need to find out is top stretcher. It's the ID of the part. It's 19. So every stretcher has the ID 19. So I can create a new one and I'll call it part. I want to show maybe the part name, actually the description. And for the description, I just want a total length of nailers or stretchers, sorry, for example. So I'll go here and I say I want to use the length. And for the length, I want to put, let's say, let's do not a sort, a group. And for the group, I'll make sure that I group everything. And I want to make a sum on the length. And let's see if I get, oh, I skip something. Description, sum, okay. I want to sum on this field. It's the opposite. So you want to select the part. You want to group by if you want to. And then you will also want to sum the length. And you can put where, I think it was the ID, just on top of my head, was equal. And I'll put just a random number, 13, for example. So what I will do is I will select all the parts where the ID is 13, assuming that 13 will be the ID for your hanging rail. But it will also write, for example, the description of the part, hanging rail, then give you the total length because you're grouping all those hanging rails on your SQL query here. So that's really how you'll do it. As long as you have a part that represents the hanging rail, you can do it in the SQL query here. Okay.
Amazing. Thank you. I have one more question for you, Christopher, but I do want to acknowledge that we are at time. So if there's anyone on the call who has to leave right now, don't worry, we will record the rest of this. I'm going to edit it a little bit, put it on YouTube, and I will send it to everyone in an email in the morning. Thank you so much. So our next question, Christopher, I like this one. So in designing the layout, can you create a checkbox on the chart for the team to record it has been accounted for?
Yes, it would be in the design. The best way, and I did it before, you can actually use the checkbox object and then actually add it to a field or even display it in an actual line. So if it's in a line, sometimes what I do is for a line, I had an empty line at the end of the data line, and you have already a type checkbox here. So you can just click on it. Here you will add the checkbox, and I just had a warning telling me that the checkbox would be basically outside because it's way too big. But if I just delete this one and click OK here, as you can see, and I'll just zoom in, oops, a little bit more. Here I added something that will represent a checkbox in my list here. So really what you want to do is you still create your table the way you want it to be formatted and just keep at the end some available space. And in the data line, you click to add an element and you have an element called checkbox at the end. And this checkbox, you can also set it with a title at the top and the header line saying you add some text that say check, for example, here. Okay.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I'll just double check the other window. That's it for questions. Thank you so much, Christopher, and thank you, Clayton, for being here.